Well, Christmas is the unofficial halfway point of the NHL season. So, what do we think of the job the Lightning have done in 2025 so far? We'll dive in on today's Locked on Lightning.
You're Locked on Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked on Lightning your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Tampa Bay Lightning podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we want to begin with a shout out to our everydayers, those of you who tune into every single show, every single day. We love you and we appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan, and I am joined by the Sinbad to my Arnold Schwarzenegger, Greg Stephen. Greg, welcome in and Merry Christmas Eve, my friend.
Yeah, Merry Christmas Eve. Happy holidays to everyone out there. Thank you for supporting the show, even on some of the bigger days of the year. Appreciate everyone very much.
Yeah, we figured some of you guys might be driving to some holiday parties or maybe headed out of town and needed a little hockey to listen to get your holidays off to a good start.
Yeah.
As we mentioned off the top, Christmas is kind of considered the unofficial midway point of the NHL season, even though it's not the numerical midway point. This is kind of when a lot of teams stop, reflect, and look at what they've done over the past year. So we're going to do that for the Tampa Bay Lightning today. We're going to look at their season so far, maybe break down some of the biggest challenges and how to fix that going ahead to 2026. And at the end, we're going to do first half superlatives with some of the players on the team. A lot of fun to be had on today's show. Before we begin, I want to mention today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL bets all season long. All right, Greg, let's look at where the Tampa Bay Lightning are right now headed into Christmas break. So I would say, given the circumstances, they have to be pretty happy where they're at. Firmly in playoff position at the moment, in the top three behind the Red Wings. Montreal has one more game left to play before the break as of time of this recording. So they could be second, they could be third. We don't know. But given everything that's happened this year, you have to be happy with what they are right now. Maybe on paper, it seems like there's a little bit more in the tank. But given the context, Greg, of just all the injuries, all the uncertainty, all the roster changes, are you happy with where the Lightning are right now at Christmas?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you said, despite all the adversity they faced thus far this season, whether it be certain guys starting slowly or just all the injuries that have piled up that we've, beat to death. I think this is a fantastic spot for them to be in, especially because in my eyes, the roster only gets healthier from here. And, the future of this season is going to depend on a healthy roster coming in and playing an even better Lightning hockey. And I foresee that being the case. I think to have 43 points right now, given all the issues, I don't think you can be upset about that.
I'm with you there. I mean, this seems like a situation in which, like I said this on another show, but I think this is John Cooper's one of his best coaching jobs this year.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
If you kind of had to summarize your biggest takeaway from these first 30-something games for the Tampa Bay Lightning and where they are this season, what would you say your biggest sort of summary for this team is?
I think it's going to be, you'd never know who's going to step up. And the reason I say that is because, look, we started the season, we saw Hagel pretty much go through like a 7-game drought minus an assist. And it didn't matter because they were still winning some games and other guys were stepping up. Then I think at that time it was Cirelli, and you and I were talking about Cirelli a ton during that period, right? We were kind of,
I would say MVP of those, maybe that first month of the season.
Right. And that's what we were labeling him. And then, Hagel starts heating up. And I think for 2-3 weeks, we're kind of like, wow, Brandon Hagel, he looks like the guy right now. And, we were kind of like, oh, Braden Point's in a slump. And then Braden Point gets injured. And then Braden Point comes back And Hagel, I think in his last 6 games, he only has a point. But Braden Point has now been heating up.
Yeah.
And he's kind of carrying a lot of the weight on offense. And then you shift your focus to the defense, right? I mean, we started off a bit slowly on D, I would argue. And then you and I were kind of teeter-tottering with Darren Raddysh. Is he going to make the lineup? He doesn't look like he's super great right now. And then all of a sudden the team finds Dastu. And he shines for like a couple weeks. And it's like, wow, Dastu is the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say
stories of the year, Dastu, to me.
Right. And I wouldn't say that Dastu necessarily had a regression at all. I think he's still a high caliber defenseman. But then, he kind of slows down a little bit as far as points and I'll call it obvious achievements on the ice. And then Darren Raddysh, right? I mean, he steps up and all the way up to this break. I mean, even against the Blues, he had 3 points. So he is just rolling. And that is why I would say it's just, you never know who it is, but someone on this roster is going to step up. And I think that's one of the best qualities of a great team is that someone is going to get the job done. You don't know who it is, and it doesn't even matter who it is because someone's going to do it.
Yeah. I think for me, my biggest takeaway is along the same lines. It's more by committee this year. And look, I would say for the past couple of years, the big thing that's been missing to me has been that trademark depth that the Tampa Bay Lightning had when they won those back-to-back Stanley Cups. And even when they got to their third against Colorado, you think back at some of the players like Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman, and up and down the lineup, and just really good players who played their role so well. Like that's been the trademark for the Tampa Bay Lightning for so long, dating back to, Alex Killorn. Before him, you always had Brian Boyle step up and make big plays.
Palat.
Yeah. And there's so many, you and I could do like the old, stereotypical, just 2 men naming hockey players.
Yeah.
We could do that for years and years and years, but that's a testament to how many really solid depth players the Lightning have had when they've been successful. And, no disrespect to some of the players on the roster the past couple of years, but, they didn't have that same impact to me, and I think that's what was missing. And look, Nikita Kucherov put up amazing numbers, and Braden Point was phenomenal. Brandon Hagel, his rise to being, sort of like a gritty middle 6'4" to, somebody who I think is a legit good two-way forward, a good power forward. That's phenomenal. And Jake Guentzel's been good and everything. But it feels like when you go down the lineup, that's where the Lightning started losing some of their matchups. And that really struck me in the playoffs last year against Florida. And so the story to this year is it seems like we're getting that depth back. And I think it's helped, obviously Yanni Gourde coming over at the deadline last year with Oliver Bjorkstrand. I think Yanni Gourde has locked down that number 4 line. And I think he really provides a really dangerous presence there. You talk about guys, you talk Dastu. Another one I want to mention is, somebody like Dominic James, who's come into this lineup. I don't think a lot of people were necessarily expecting him to be in the NHL this year, but the fact that he's come in and he's carved out an everyday role for himself, I think is big. And the big thing to me, Greg, is these guys are getting on the score sheet. Like, it's not just, they're laying hits and everything like that, blah, blah, blah. They're scoring goals. They're getting points. They're setting players up. And that, to me, I think is maybe the big difference. Because, look, I know I crapped on the roster for the last couple of years. All those guys had heart. Like, all those guys played hard, were aggressive, did a lot of things really well, but they didn't necessarily light it up on the score sheet. This year, you're starting to see that depth scoring come back. And I think that's a big thing for the Tampa Bay Lightning this year.
Yeah, and to support your point even further, I mean, look, Jack Finley doesn't play a ton of games, but when he does, he scores breakaway goals.
He always seems to score a breakaway goal, Greg.
Even Sabrin. I mean, he's only played a handful of games, but he put in an amazing goal. I think it was against the Rangers, and you're getting it from everywhere. Even the guys who aren't necessarily in the lineup as consistently as guys like Dominic James, even the guys that step in for a health, like a guy that gets healthy scratch and they step in for a game or two, they're doing things. Everyone is. And I think that is a great signal for the Lightning going forward here.
I agree. And I think that's going to be a key for the second half of the year as well, which kind of leads to our next topic. What are some of the biggest challenges the team has faced so far? We know injuries.
Right.
Are there any other ones that stand out for the Lightning? And we'll talk about how to fix it moving ahead to the second half of the year when we come back. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly the entire game feels totally different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. Maybe a receiver gets hot. Maybe a defense tightens up. Maybe there's a big turnover and momentum flips on its head. Whatever happens, FanDuel lets you jump into the moment live. The live spreads and money lines adjust instantly whenever there's a big play. Player props heat up as guys heat up. So if Baker Mayfield's tearing it up through the air, you can bet more on his passing stats and touchdown stats. You can also bet next touchdown scores, drive results, point totals, and much, much more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. You can also download the FanDuel app straight to your phone so you can place bets wherever you are. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. We're back on Locked On Lightning. Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Stephen. And Greg, let's talk about some of the biggest challenges that the Lightning have faced this season so far. Obviously, the biggest challenge to me has just been injuries. That's not a surprise. That's something we've talked about a lot. We've talked about it a little bit on yesterday's show. But, it is insane just how much the Lightning have been hurt compared to the rest of the NHL. Like if you take like the standard long-term injured reserves out of the equation, the Lightning have missed the most in-season games due to injury this year.
Yes.
Which
they have.
Yeah, and it brings back, because I think a lot of people, John Cooper said this, like it kind of reminds him of that cursed 2017 season. Where they wound up missing the playoffs. And I think everybody's like, uh-oh, that's not going to happen again, is it?
Right.
I guess, how do you feel about the injury situation moving forward, and how much do you think it is going to impact maybe this team's standing long-term?
Great question. I think that it's not going to get any worse. And I think it's mostly because...
Hey, hang on, knock on wood real quick.
No, I don't think... The reason I say that is because I don't even see how it could. Like, it's been so awful. I can't foresee a world where you come back from, let's just say, both of the breaks that are coming up and don't have a healthier roster. And yeah, maybe you go have a guy or two go down every so often, but like, I mean, they were at a point where they had 5+ dudes just sitting down because they couldn't play. I mean, it's ridiculous. I just don't think that is going to happen anymore this season. And I'm mostly willing that into existence right now, as you can see.
You're either willing it into existence or cursing us all.
Right, exactly. I was thinking the same thought, but no, I don't think it gets worse. I think, you only see this team excel moving forward.
Okay, so join us next week when we talk about Nikita Kucherov being done for the year with a fork accident like Jack Hughes had or something like that.
Yep.
Look, I mean, they're like, let's just say it calms down. It's a long hockey season. I'm not naive to think there aren't going to be more injuries.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There's going to be guys miss a couple games here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as the trend continues and you start getting guys back, I think it's going to be manageable. Obviously it sounds like Eric Chernak could be back sometime in January. We're talking about Victor Hedman possibly being back before the Olympic break. We've heard the same thing for Lilberg. So, as long as this, I'm not naive to think there's not going to be any more injuries for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I think as long as, you don't have like 5 year-end injuries all in a row.
Right.
Like, I think you're good. I think when you start, maybe you've already have holes on defense. I think maybe if you start losing some forwards kind of in that same vein where, it's not just like day to day or week to week, but, some players start missing significant, weeks or months. That's when I think there might be a problem.
For sure.
Because I don't think, Greg, it's fair to question whether this depth stays. We don't know yet. We don't know if it's just a hot streak for some players and they're just, feeling themselves right now. Or if they really are stepping up. And I, for one, would not like to test that theory. No. I would like our big guns firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. I mean, against the Kings, 3 games ago, there was a point where the entire top line was out because Kuch was out with illness. Hagel was out because of the hit. And then Cirelli took that weird blindside hit. And then the whole top line wasn't even playing.
Yeah.
I don't think that kind of stuff's going to happen too much.
Yeah, it's like Braden Point and Jake Guentzel as the end of Fresh Prince, where they're just kind of standing in an empty room looking around. So obviously that's the injury situation, Greg. For you, what else has been maybe a big challenge for the team this year?
Yeah, I think it's certain guys, and maybe this is just because of my own expectations, or maybe it's everyone's. I have no idea, but I think certain guys. I think a guy I really want to name is Gage Gonsalves. I think after showing the signs he showed at the end of last season, he was just elite. And not only just at the end of the season, but even in the playoffs. I think he had the same amount of points as Kucherov. I think it was, only 4, but he still had 4 points in 5 games, and that was in the playoffs when it was time to shine. And I really did have higher expectations for him this season, and he just has failed to live up to them, unfortunately. I think lately he's been playing much better. I think, like I had mentioned on a show previously, his chemistry with Dominic James looks really nice. So I hope they continue to, experiment with that. And then the other thing that I think this team is lacking a bit right now is just simply physicality. And they really don't. You could count Curtis Douglas as that guy. And I think you can count Sabrin as that guy. But neither of those guys are playing consistent minutes nor games in general. And the rest of let's just call it the rest of the forward group, I just don't see any of them as physical players. Maybe you could consider Girgensons a bit of a physical guy, but even him, I don't see it that way. I don't think anyone on this team is really like a big hitter. And look, you don't always need that, but it is important to win some hockey games. You got to be a physical team. And we used to see guys like Chernak. He used to be such a physical guy. He would even, throw hands when needed. And we don't see that from him anymore ever since he took I think it was a nasty concussion a few years back in the playoffs. But and I think we see it from Lilleberg on occasion. But I almost appreciate that he doesn't do it anymore because I think his discipline has improved because, he's more mindful of not prioritizing that. Mm-hmm. But again, outside of those guys, there's really not a big physical presence with this team. And again, that's not always terrible, but I do think it's an important element to hockey.
I think you're right. And I think, I hate to say it, but a team that does it well is a team like Florida.
Yep.
Which is they're able to, play physical enough to get you off their game. Sometimes they cross that line and don't get punished for it. But I think like that kind of style, and we've honestly, Greg, to an extent, we saw Tampa win with a little bit of that style.
Oh yeah,
to
Maroon and Perry.
Yeah, I mean, Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow are guys that could kind of do that and still play good solid hockey. Nick Paul, that was his game for a little bit. I do think you're going to have to maybe add some sort of that physical element, or not add, but you're going to have some of that, especially going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I just think that is part of the recipe for winning a Stanley Cup. I'm not saying it's like you need to be like sign all the 6'5" guys who can fight and don't do anything else. You just need some guys who are willing to finish checks, who are willing to forecheck hard and get into some dirty areas.
Yes.
I think that is Greg. For me, I would say the inconsistency on power play.
Yeah.
That has been a big challenge so far. And this isn't the first year that we've kind of talked about it, because it's kind of been an issue at times the past couple of years. And look, they've bounced back and forth between like 30th in the NHL, and then they were up to 10th, and now they're like, they're tanking again, and then they kind of crawl back up. And I want to say what are they now? 13th in the NHL? I can't remember off the top of my head. They are okay. I was way off. They're 20th.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like, you check one week and they're in their 10th, and then you check the next week and they're way at the bottom. And it's this hot and cold streak that they can't seem to break. They'll go on runs where they'll score a couple power play goals, each game. And then they'll score, 5 in the span of 3 games. And then they'll go, 6 games where they might only have 1.
Right.
And it's just that inconsistency that drives me crazy. And I know part of it is probably injuries, because you're rotating guys in and out. But look at the collection of talent on this team. Like Nikita Kucherov, one of the best playmakers of the past, 20 years of the NHL. Brandon Hagel, Jake Guentzel, guys that can score. Braden Point, multiple time 40 goal scorer. Victor Hedman from the blue line has been so good for many, many years. Obviously, he's hurt, so Darren Raddysh comes in. We know how gifted offensively he is. It's crazy with this collection of talent that they haven't been able to find a consistent rotation and consistent game plan that works.
It is. It's definitely puzzling. And I think, like you said, a lot of it is shuffling who's out there. Mostly again due to injury, but yeah, like you said, with guys like Kucherov, someone's got to be finishing. It doesn't matter who you are, someone's got to be finishing them. And we've got, like you said, we've seen them struggle with this as well. And I think the Panthers almost got in their heads by shutting it down so hard in the playoffs last season.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, you got to figure it out. I mean, you've had a lot of time at this point to sort that out, and I still think they're working on it. You can see sometimes they try certain things and you're like, okay, this isn't, their normal thing. And I think that's fine. I think this is the time to figure it out, right? Like we're only 37 games in.
Yeah.
So, if you're still trying to figure that out, do it. But yeah, like you said, it's got to be more consistent for sure. I think it's looked a lot better in the last week or two. But
it's trending in the right direction. I will say that.
Right. And I think they notched 2 power play goals against the Blues.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think, again, when you get the healthy roster back, we'll get a better picture of how the power play really looks.
Yeah, no doubt. And hopefully it leads to, like, to your point, I would rather figure this out now than, not have to test it in the playoffs.
Yeah. Instead of at game 75,
Yeah, exactly. Greg, let's get to some first half superlatives. I'm going to throw a couple of prompts at you, and you're going to tell me what player you think best fits that description. All right?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do that when we come back on Locked on Lightning. We're back on Locked on Lightning. Nick Morgan here alongside Greg Stephen. And Greg, let's get to some first half superlatives for the Tampa Bay Lightning. You ready? You ready to go? You ready?
I'm hyped. Let's hear them.
All right. First superlative. We've talked about this earlier this year, but now I want to see how much your answer has changed.
Okay.
Who is your first half MVP for the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Okay. It's Jake Guentzel.
Okay. Why?
I just think when everyone's down and out, Jake Guentzel's there. You need to finish a game, Jake Guentzel's there. You need an effort wherever on the ice, Jake Guentzel, he's there. And he has, I couldn't even tell you how many points he has right now off the top of my head, but he has enough to make a name for himself as one of the best Bolts. He has 38 points in
38
games,
points
by
in
the way.
36 games, 17 goals, 21 assists.
And look, you're always going to see Cooch above him in points, I think. And that doesn't mean that Cooch isn't a god, but Guentzel he's been there, man. I think in some of the critical games where Cooch is not there, he's there. And I think he's so reliable, dependable, plays a solid game every single time. I can only think of one play this entire season where I've been like, wasn't his best. And that's it. I think outside of that, I think he almost plays like a flawless game. He's just excellent.
Yeah. I'm tempted. I would say Jake Guentzel has been the most consistent this year.
Yeah.
And he's also one of only a handful of players to play every game this season.
Mm-hmm.
So you love to see that. I'm with you. I think Jake Guentzel's got a strong case for, being the best guy this year. But I'm going to go, Greg. My MVP pick is going to be Brandon Hagel.
Nice.
And I think especially second half Brandon Hagel, because we talked earlier, we kind of alluded to it. Brandon Hagel did not get off to a great start to this year, and we're kind of thinking what was wrong with him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he heard us, but since the end of October on, this man has been absolutely on fire, just scoring at an insane pace. 31 points in 32 games, leads the Lightning in goals with 18. He's plus 18. He leads the Lightning with game-winning goals with 4. He's also got 2 goals on the power play. But I think what makes Brandon Hagel so special is he's doing it, 200 feet both ways. I would say he's the Lightning's best forechecker. And, that's somebody you normally see in your, second, third line. I think he's been extremely, he's been able to sort of bounce himself back from low stretches. I remember the game. I can't remember who it's against. You might know, but he was benched for the second period because he had 2 really bad turnovers, one of which led to a goal. He came back for the third and scored twice. And it's sort of that sort of mentality to forget it, move on. I just think when you're looking for a player who does everything that you need to do, he's a tremendous penalty killer, tremendous forechecker. He is, like you said earlier, he's the guy that finishes his hits. He gets to the front of the net. Brandon Hagel to me is just, I think, the best 200-foot player on the Lightning right now. And so he's my first half MVP, and I hope he comes back after Christmas healthy and ready to go.
Me too. I think that's a great pick. I really do. Especially he started slowly and he's really transformed his game and looked like one of the best players on the ice since, figuring it out. And it's impressive how many points he has after starting so slowly in the first 8 games. He had 1 assist. So to have what he has right now is remarkable.
Yeah. All right. Here's another one for you, Greg.
Okay.
What player has surprised you the most this season?
Darren Raddysh.
That's mine too. Yeah.
Maybe I could make a case for Dastu.
Yeah, like a call up, but yeah.
Right. But it's definitely Darren Raddysh. I mean, like we said earlier on this show, we were at a point where it was like, why is he in the lineup?
Why is he playing 27 minutes a night?
Right. And we even made our case for the fact that they were only putting him in the offensive zone, and that was all they were using him for. And he only had a few shifts. He was playing, I think, 8 to 10 minutes at one point, a few games. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, yo, do you know who our number 1 D is? Darren Raddysh.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, he puts in goals. He puts in assists. He is playing great defense. He looks like he has strong chemistry on the power play right now, even. I don't have a criticism of Darren Raddysh. I don't have anything. I don't even know what I could say that would be bad about him right now. I don't think there's anything.
No. And you know what? It's him and JJ Moser together on that first pair. For some reason, that just works.
It does.
And it works better than when Raddysh was with, because he was with Hedman at some points last year. But something about those 2 games together, sometimes players just bring out the best in each other. And, JJ Moser, he's willing to embrace being that stay-at-home guy that allows, Darren Raddysh to kind of go be Darren Raddysh. Like we talked before the season, he's, he's good at offense. He's going to score. He's not going to play defense that much. And he's flipped that narrative. And you know what? Like JJ Moser gets credit for being the lockdown defender of that pair. Darren Raddysh has made some really good plays in his own end this year. Like I remember one when they played the Oilers earlier this year. Connor McDavid comes breaking in. How often do we see Connor McDavid just embarrassed entire defenses?
Like nightly.
Connor McDavid comes speeding in. Darren Raddysh uses his body, bumps McDavid off of his line. McDavid doesn't get a shot on goal. Like we're talking about Darren Raddysh going one-on-one with Connor frickin' McDavid and winning the battle. Was that something we ever thought we would talk about at this time, at this point before the season started?
No, not at all. I mean, I can recall even in 2 games ago against the Canadiens, he had a play. I forget who was coming in on the offensive blue, or I guess our defensive blue line. And all he did was step up, take the body, take the puck, and, take the puck right back up to our offensive zone. And I was like, all right, Darren Raddysh playing some defense, baby. Here we go.
Yeah. All right. Here's the next superlative, Greg.
Yep.
A player you want to see more from in 2026.
Dominic James. No, you know what? I'm taking it back. Gage Gonsalves. And I know I already dived into this a little bit, but I want to see Gage, step up. And I think after seeing how he played last season at the end, I just think he is so talented. He's so fast. He gives his effort. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with his game necessarily. It's just finishing opportunities and finding some chemistry with maybe some different guys. And like I've said a few times now, I think one of them is Dominic James. Just based on watching a lot of these games, those two, they have like the same kind of energy. And I don't know who you consistently put with them as their third, but whoever it is, if they can figure that out, this can be an insane line, I think.
Yeah. I would love to see more from both of those. The other guy I want to see more from, my pick is Oliver Bjorkstrand.
That's fair.
Obviously, we're going to dive into the trade when we do our sort of year in review recap,
right?
Coming up. But to me, that's a guy that you need more from. And I think on both ends of the ice, he's been a little spotty this year. But there's a lot in the tank for Oliver Bjorkstrand. I think he is a good player in the right circumstance, and maybe he's not, doesn't hit like that high scoring mark he had, I think, his first year in Seattle or, past couple of years when he was with Columbus. But I do think that there is a really good middle six player there somewhere, but that consistency needs to be there a little bit more for Bjorkstrand. And there are moments where, you watch him play and it's like, awesome. That's like exactly what the Lightning need.
Right.
I just want to see more of those moments.
Yeah, for sure. He only has 16 points in 36 games and he's -6. So definitely more there, like you said. And ideally he does, amplify his game a little more, make himself a little more comfortable.
Yeah. All right. One more superlative for you.
Okay.
Who do you think is going to be the second half MVP?
Ooh. It's a really, really, really good question.
Like who's the game? Okay, you want me to give you mine first?
Yeah. You go ahead.
Okay, I'll give you time to think. Mine is going to be Andrei Vasilevskiy.
I was thinking about that, but now I can't.
Well, you should have gone first.
I know.
You waited, man. To me, Andrei Vasilevskiy, I think it all comes down to him being the X factor. And look, injuries or not, Lightning can be 100% healthy. Everybody else can be, hurt. Andrei Vasilevskiy, I think his play is going to be the key to how well the Lightning do the rest of the year. Like if he is somebody that gets back to his former self, even, the Vezina quality he was last year, or just the unstoppable brick wall he had been for years, maybe before a couple of years ago. If he plays at that level, the Lightning can beat anybody with any lineup. I truly believe that. If he's off, I think that's where the door opens up a little bit more. So if Andrei Vasilevskiy is vintage Andrei Vasilevskiy, I think the Lightning have a really good chance of not only maybe establishing themselves a bit more in this division race, but maybe looking like that bona fide Stanley Cup contender down the road. And then once everybody gets healthy and starts gelling, this is a really good team, but it's going to start from the back with Vasi.
I think it's an excellent pick. I think you're absolutely right about that. I have mine.
Okay.
And I wanted it to be spicier, but unfortunately, you just can't go against the facts. And Nikita Kucherov is going to be the second half MVP. I mean, dude is just still a monster. He has 43 points so far and a little under 50 games left. So
yeah,
fully expect him to hit 100 again, especially since he's missed a few games so far this season. So it's,
Sure.
to have 43 is remarkable. And we all know who he is. I don't even think I need to sit here and say anything. He's just Nikita Kucherov, and I think he's going to continue to be Nikita Kucherov. And when he gets a healthy roster, consistent line mates, and a full squad behind him, he's a dangerous man.
Yes, sir. Agree with that 100%. That is a good pick. Hey, for everybody listening, we hope you have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, however you're spending it. We're not going to have a show on Christmas Day, nor are we going to have a show the day after Christmas. Starting next week, we will be back with new episodes. We have our year-end review recap. I don't know why that's a tough combination of words to say, Greg, but for some reason it is. We'll also have a look back at the NHL this past year and look ahead to things we're most looking forward to from the Lightning in 2026. You can also keep tabs with us on social media, Locked on Lightning, wherever you scroll, and also be sure to hit that subscribe button. That's going to do it for us today on Locked on Lightning. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Happy holidays. We'll be back next week with new episodes. We'll see you then.